Hi, welcome back. This is the second module of the eliminating the mess and creating two healthy separate homes on one accord for children of separated parents. Co-parenting seminar. Okay, so tonight we will talk about um, that next step that the next step after you are done defining you. Okay, and you'll see how it all kind of ties in. This one is about evaluating your capacity. Your capacity. I have to stress that because I think more and more often we find ourselves as human beings just apt to speak for the next person. Okay, so we can't speak for them. You can't live for them. You can't be for them. You can only live and be for you. And that a lot of times is the main reason why people stray. They feel like, okay, well, I just can't be that person whom, they're trying to make me out to be, or that person they want me to be, then I'll just not be at all. And we all know that doesn't work for the child. Yeah, that may work for us because at the end of the day, we're at the point where we're over this relationship, right? But it doesn't work for the child or the children that are involved, okay? So, just trying to follow my notes this time. Evaluate the capacities over the catastrophes. Capacity speaks to what one has the ability to do, okay? Your aptitude or what have you. The catastrophes are the elements of your present and your past that normally lead people to feel presumptuous or feel like, okay, well, you know what? It's been this way. So that's pretty much where we are going to be with this situation. That's pretty much what's going to happen. I know this person, excuse me, I've been married to them for 25 years. And you know what? He or she is like this or that, and they're not going to do this or that. And this isn't going to work for that reason. Okay. That's kind of the wrong perception. That's the wrong overview to adopt. Because when you do that, you're already inviting negativity into your life. And as everyone knows, I'm like super positive and I believe in positive attributes in life. And I feel like we should only feed into positive energy because positive energy remits positive energy. And even if things are negative, more positive energy will continue to filter out that negativity and it will just be positive. That's all that remains. So that's what you kind of have to want for yourself. So, what I like to tell people is this: I live by this slogan, and so many people have always, they've always asked me, they're like, how do you create this type of element? How do you create this type of environment? Because if you know me or if you've done research about me, then of course you know I am like the epitome of what it is to have a blended family or a very healthy co parenting system. Okay. Because at the end of the day, it's not about me. It's not about my ex-spouse. It's about what's good for our children. It's all about them. Okay. So the way you do this is you kind of have to get around all of that negative energy that has transpired over the course of your relationship in its previous form, and you have to move yourself into a new space where you're able to create nothing but positive energy. And because you've allowed yourself to do that, you're healthy. And because you're healthy, whatever you touch and whatever you aspire to build can now be healthy as well. Okay. And I know that that can seem extremely far fetched, especially in um, couples where you see an extreme amount of intimate partner violence. Sometimes you can't see getting there from where you are now. But yes, you can achieve this as well. Um, this particular element is not too far fetched for anyone to achieve. It's just about the capacity within you. It's about healing the old wounds, closing them up, and achieving closure. Because when you did that self evaluation and you found out all of the elements of you that could be preventing you from having this very healthy system, okay? Hopefully, you were honest enough to say, let me put this right in front of me. Let me sticky note this or post it, okay? And say, when such and such does this, what I normally react and do is this, okay? And hopefully you were honest enough with yourself to say, okay, well, this isn't productive for the outcome or for the end game, okay? So that's what I say. The elements of your past and the things that are before you are very light, minute, and pretty much non existent when it comes to comparing it to the capacity within you to do more, okay, and to do better. So, I mentioned the depth of your self-analysis previously. It should have allowed you the opportunity to see your true capacity for growth in a new system because that's exactly what happens. You don't necessarily when your relationships don't end, okay? We like to say, "Oh, I'm over it." But relationships are all that we have in this world. That's it. You know, we are all interconnected links of one very large system. So if relationships ended, so with the system. What we do as human beings is we transcend from one relationship situation to another relationship situation, oftentimes with the same elements. Sometimes we don't even see it until it's like, wow, huh, hmm, okay, I really needed that person. Or, without them being here for me every day or every other day, or without them calling me every other day, I felt less productive. And then you realize that that person is an intricate element in your system functioning well. Okay. So now we're going to look at your capacity and what that looks like. Your There are normally two very distinctive types of parents when it comes to co-parenting, and sometimes you even see this when people are married and still in the relationship. You either have the able and willing parent or you have the able and willful parent. And if you know anything about dialectical thinking, you know exactly where I'm going with this. If not, you should definitely research that piece because it offers amazing insight, okay, into how we interact with people and how we can be more constructive in our interactions with one another, okay? So basically, like an overview of what it is to be dialectical is to be able to accept two very different frames of thought within the same space and at the same time, okay? Doesn't mean that I am right or you are wrong. It means that we can both be very right from two very different perspectives at the same time. Thank you. Sorry. Can you close that door for me? Okay. So, receiving packages still. All right. So, as we move sort of to the meat of this, okay. Um, in determining which parent you are, either willful or willing, okay, both of you are able. Okay, we are all able to create a different environment to be more positive as people, to be more productive as people and to create a system that works. We're all able to do it, but there are some of us who are less willing to do it because we are at a point in our lives where we've not done an honest evaluation and we've not healed past those catastrophes. And because we've not healed past it, we continue to relive them. Okay. So you may need a little bit more work if you don't find yourself on the side being that parent who is willing and able. Okay. So the way you kind of get yourself there, if you're not already there, is you think about the purpose of the co parenting relationship. And everybody knows that the co parenting relationship is not built for the co parents, it's built for the children, the minors that are involved that are in no way responsible for this situation. I will offer a piece of information to you guys, and it's one of the pieces that is extremely disheartening for me as a psychotherapist because I see it every day in couples and in family work that I do. And it's hard for me sometimes when the parents could have it right there in their faces and they don't see it. Children are often more impacted by divorce and separation when they are under age 8. They tend to blame themselves for your breakup. They tend to blame themselves for your arguments, for the discrepancies in communication between the two of you, and all that it houses, okay? Regardless of how much you reassure them that this is not their fault, the only way that they see it's not their fault is when they see a function within the two parent system. And later on, two parent subsystems, because eventually you want to support that other parent so that they can move on and have a healthy life and be able to demonstrate what life and love look like, after a healthy separation. And then you have both of those systems demonstrating and modeling, great behavior for those children who are a part of that system. Okay? So make the commitment to your children for your personal growth, but mostly for the sake of the emotional, psychosocial, and spiritual growth as positive people of your children. Okay? So this whole commitment is surrounded and inspired at the same time by your children. Okay? It's all about them. Once the commitment is solidified and its purpose clearly defined, you are prepared to receive all else that comes from the other parent, but not before you set and commit to some basic rules and regulations that will guide that whole communication piece, okay? In a perfect world, we don't need rules of communication because communication flows the way it's supposed to, effective. We have communicator number one, that's the person rendering this message initially. And we have communicator number two, who is supposed to be receiving the message as sent by one. Okay? You see how this all interlocks. Once they receive it, they give it back to one, and it's supposed to be solidified and confirmed. And that's communication when it's effective. Okay? But that's not what we have. Oftentimes, especially in separated couples, divorcing parents, and relationships that never even started off as companionships or committed relationships, where children just popped out of the situation, okay? You see a lot of friction there because the messages aren't being communicated effectively, received effectively, or a combination of both, okay? People tend to communicate in a very disrespectful way when things don't go their way. And that's just the truth of the matter. It's almost sad to say, but we develop and we grow as human beings from childhood, but we often mimic those basic tenets of our rearing. So if we were one of those children who were very spoiled coming up, and if we cried or we pouted or something to that effect, we received that thing that we wanted to get, and our parents said no. Dad said, "Oh no, you can't have that." I really want it. You whine and you cry for it, and then they give in. Okay, so that type of person is more apt to put up a fit, have like a hissy fit or a temper tantrum, and expect for the other parent to give in. And when they don't, they start to be just disrespectful, completely out of line. Communication doesn't go effectively. Let's put it like that. They'll bring up all of the negative habits about the other parent. They'll bring up all of the old baggage and old garbage that was buried over when the relationship expired in itself as it was previously. They'll go ahead and they'll resurface it, even if it's been 5 or 6 years, sometimes 10 to 15 years. Okay, well, yeah, he cheated. Yeah, she cheated. But is that relevant to this co-parenting relationship that is for the sake of the children? Now, in some instances, that might be, because who knows? Maybe this argument is between the two people who actually were cheaters and they conceived a child during that time, and that child is what we're talking about. Then that becomes relevant. But even then, that's not relevant to the element of co-parenting in itself. Okay? So it's about being effective in our communication and being honest in our communication in such a way that we allow that parent on the other end to be themselves without assumptions. Okay. So these basic rules that I've outlined for you are: number one is honest communication. Yay. That's kind of what I stand for, right? That's my whole stamper. Honest communication. Number two, clear communication. If you don't know what clear communication is, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give you a an example. I'm the parent who is trying this out for the first time. We have a child. The child is 13 years old. And dad and I separated when the child was 5. So the last 8 years, dad hasn't been, participating in the situation. I've not seen him. He's not seen me. And let's say that now dad is at a point of his life where he feels like, maintaining constant communication is important. And I've come to a point in my life where I feel like that's the best thing for our child. So I'm going to support him in that. And I'm going to try to do everything that I can to try and support him without the bias of the fact that I've been providing for this child this whole 8 years with no help from you. Okay. Truly no help. No child support. No court ordered visitation that takes the burden off of me of paying daycare during the summer, whatever it is that makes me feel angry about the time that the other parent has missed. It could simply be the element of knowing how many milestones that child has taken and not had the psychosocial support of that other parent. Now that's deep. Okay. So, in communicating clearly with this other parent, I'm going to respectfully let them know that because I am doing this for the first time and you've not been there, you know, the very first time that you take our daughter, our son out, to spend time with you, why don't we take it slowly? Why don't we let you have like one full day? Okay. Then bring the child back. Because I'm gonna need time to adjust to this. And the truth is, I don't trust you. Not yet. I'm trying to. I'm getting there. But I'm not there yet, okay? And because I'm trying to get there, I need a little bit more time. I need to see it sort of like repetitious behavior that's going to get me there to a space where, although I know that you're the other parent, I feel like you have the same motivations or similar motivations for this child's welfare as I do. Because oftentimes that's how the parent who's been taking care of the child for the majority of the time feels. They feel like, that other parent didn't care. But it's not their place to feel it. Okay? It's the other parent's place to feel whatever it is that they felt when they were on the opposite end of the spectrum. And because we're not geared up to think that way and we're geared up to assume, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. But as long as you are, as the assumer in this particular role, are able to communicate clearly what your thoughts and your feelings and emotions are at this point, sometimes that in itself could make the difference between that other parent communicating negatively or positive with you. Okay? Because believe it or not, they respect you for the role that you played in their child's life. It may not seem like it because they've not been there, but oftentimes you don't know what they've been through either. So that's something that you have to remind yourself. You know, life has been difficult for me, but I don't know what life has been like for them. So let me not assume, and instead let me ask. Let me be curious from time to time. And that's one of those things that's in this list. Okay? Be very precise. So if you want the child back at home at 7 o'clock, say just that. Okay. Don't say, well, what time works for you? Say, well, you know what? I'd really like to have so and so home by 7 because I like to have them in bed by 8:30 and we need to get dinner finished and, wind down and get everything ready for the next day. So I need you to have them home by 7 p.m. Okay. So let's say the other parent, and now you're the other parent, you're on the opposite side of the spectrum. 7 o'clock doesn't work for them. Let's say something earlier does. Maybe they have something to do. Now it's your job to also be precise. Okay, well, actually, I want it to be home by 7. So, can I have so and so home by 5:30? Does that work for you? Or can we meet? Is transportation an issue? Is distance an issue? We need to be able to communicate all of the things that we're feeling precisely and clearly because otherwise things get distorted. And that first visit in itself could be a headache, a huge headache already. Okay. And where we could have had progress going forward, now we're regressing. Okay. So let's do that. Make sure your communication is respectful, non assuming, curious, open. And by open, I mean that I want it to be safe. So that means that you need to be open to receive what it is that they feel, and they feel that they need to express that remains clear, honest, and precise. Just like you just expressed what you needed to clearly, honestly, and precisely. But you have to be able to receive that too. Okay. And that's one of those things that take growth. You ever heard your grandparents tell you you need to bite your tongue? I'm not asking you to bite your tongue. I'm asking you to grow up for the sake of the children. Develop for the sake of the children. Develop a sense of self that says, I I am not without flaw. Okay? We are all filled with flaws. We're not perfect. But in order for us to get to a point where we are productive members of society, we have to work on us and we have to be honest about the things that are our flaws, those things that are our biases that prevent us from being productive members of society. And in this case, productive co-parents, willing co-parents instead of willful, hurt, damaged, afraid. Okay. Try and follow through with everything that you commit to. And that's not just in the beginning. That's during the duration of this co parenting relationship. That's during the duration of this co grandparenting relationship. Because, like I said in the very first segment, when you entered into this situation, you entered a lifelong commitment and you didn't even know it. Okay. So now you're bound for life. And that's the way that you transition into a healthy situation. Accept the fact that you've made this commitment, explore those elements of you, and keep it moving by doing what's positive for the sake of your children. Okay? That's what you do first. You don't try and dictate what they do. You don't try and even suggest what they do unless they ask for your input. It's not your job to monitor what the other parent is doing with the child. It's your job to do what? Focus on you. The only element that you can control in this situation is you. That's it. Not even the child. And I want you to really think about that because children are not property. They're functional human beings, just like you and I. So at the end of the day, when you get to the point to where you're ready to build this type of bridge to close up that gap where no communication or ineffective communication as co-parents once existed, you've got to be on a whole nother level. You got to be ready for true transformative growth in a productive way. As always, you know that you guys know that I keep it honest, I keep it straight and to the point, and that's what it is. Um, I aspire to empower people to dig deep within themselves and completely develop the elements of their selves that are underdeveloped. We are all under construction, okay? At least you can pick how you construct those elements of you that still need a little bit of work, right? Okay, so as I mentioned, following through, make sure that all communication and all decisions are in the best interest of the child. And I already mentioned safe. Um, I said that I would try to keep this under 30 minutes, and I am under 30 minutes at 27:45. But um, I have to also mention that depending on where you are in your relationship, you may or may not feel like that other parent stands to bamboozle you. But it's always great, especially in the beginning, to go ahead when there are no heated feelings and, you know, nothing that is negative or too positive going on in the situation, to get a parenting plan etched in stone and signed by a notary. Okay. Notaries are court appointed officials, and oftentimes some of them are mediators as well. So they can help you, sometimes with um, situations where you may seem a little bit uncomfortable. They may be able to say, okay, well, maybe you need to talk to an attorney about this before. Because a lot of times we can see when you're not comfortable signing the forms, and we definitely are not held to that appointment for no reason. We don't want you to be signing any forms that you're under um, extreme pressure and duress in signing. Okay, so that concludes the second module, and I really hope that you guys lead happy and healthy, fulfilling lives, and you create the perfect co-parenting situation. I will see you guys in module 3. It's going to be great. I think that's where we'll reach our growth. All right. Well, as always, if no one has told you as of yet, know that I love you. You guys be safe and take care of one another and aspire to empower each day.